Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Shiv Grewal. Shiv, welcome on the show.
Thank you, Nitin. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is all ours.
Yeah.
So tell us who's Shiv.
Okay. So Shiv is a man who's lived in this country for coming on to, in fact, 30 years now. I was in India for a big part of my life, and actually half my life now, and half my life is in the US, so it's exactly 50-50. And so I came in not late in life, but not as a spring chicken.
Yeah.
So I came here to do a master's degree in law with every intention of going back to India. And as most people who've been through this education process have found, it's difficult to do that. So I stayed on. It wasn't easy staying on because the legal profession, the master's degree I didn't lend itself to getting a job easily in this country. So, but that's a whole different story of how I got the job, and luck plays a big role in that, and good fortune and kismet, whichever you want to call it. So I've been in this country 30 years, nearly all of which have been in Southern California, and 10 years in LA and 20 years in Orange County. So as they say, once you live in Southern California, you have golden handcuffs.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to move to any other place in the country. So actually in the world.
Yeah.
So we love it here. And this is our home now.
Yeah.
Having said that, the tug of India is constantly there. Our family is all in India. We have, except for my wife and I and my kids, none of our families in the US. So I think we're going to start spending a little more time in India now as we get a little older.
Yeah.
So that's really it. I don't know if you want me to go into a little more detail, and I could if some of my activities.
Please.
Okay, so look, I was a lawyer for 30 years, 7 years of which were in India, 23 years over here, actually 25 years over here, so 32 years as a lawyer. And I started my career in a law firm in LA, which was a global international law firm, although India was really not on the map until around 2000. No one really looked at India as a serious investment opportunity. There were really no deals going on with India. But after 2000, the whole the Y2K boom, which caused, as you know, a huge bump in the tech industry, especially as it relates to India and the service providers in India, things changed, and India became a destination that the American companies were looking at increasingly. Having said that, most of my practice was domestic, US based, a lot of venture capital, startup companies, public companies, a lot of merger and acquisitions, public offerings. So the whole gamut of a corporate securities lawyer. And first 10 years in Los Angeles with two very large firms, both global firms actually. And then around 2000, I decided it's time to get into the early stage venture capital game. And seriously thought of moving to Northern California, to the Bay Area, to Silicon Valley. But to be honest, my wife went and spent a couple of weeks there and refused. She said, no way, I'm moving to Silicon Valley. And fair enough. So I found the next best thing, a law firm in Southern California that focused on the venture capital space, and that was in Orange County. So it's a firm called Stradling Yaka, and I joined them in 2000. As a young partner, and had a lot of success here. Rapidly went up the ranks, all the way to managing the firm, and had a great time here. 15 years in Stradling, and then some of my more successful clients convinced me to move out and start using my network for personal gain, which is investments. And we formed an investment boutique called Octax. And we've been investing from Octax over the last 5 years, 4.5 years. And it's been a lot of fun, wearing different hats, reinventing yourself, I think for the third time. And I don't know, it keeps you young and keeps you on edge. You don't get too comfortable in any zone, right? So yeah, so it's been a good journey.
Thanks for sharing that. And you mentioned reinventing yourself, living on the edge, almost defining the edge in many cases, and then getting to push that. And tell us a little more about Octus. What's the size and scale of operations? What kind of investing do you do? Geographies, industries, and maybe something about the companies you've invested in.
Well, Octus is, we thought hard when we formed it. Should we go out and raise a committed fund? Put in 10, 20, $30 million, raise it from people we knew. But then we felt that I think if we did that, we'd be handcuffed. We'd have too many fiduciary obligations. And I don't think we were ready for that as yet. I wasn't, for sure. I didn't want to be answering to anyone. I didn't want to put out quarterly reports and stress in bed if I'm losing money for them or not. And I think the model, having had practiced here in Orange County for so many years and at a pretty senior level, one got a pretty good nose for what's working and what isn't working. Now, Orange County is a huge center, I think Boston being the other, for medical devices. And I think you'd see San Diego and LA being much more in the biopharmaceutical area, but for devices, Orange County is the place. And so, you go with the strengths of the geography you're operating in. And what I found was that a lot of the venture capitalists who are investing in the medical device space had gravitated to biopharmaceuticals. And the reason was because a lot of those companies, and this is a quote from one of the VCs, even our dogs are going public. I mean, they were so bad, they'd written them off, but they were also going public. So they were making so much money in the biopharmaceutical space, even the device guys retooled and switched over. In fact, all the VCs in Orange County, there were a number of them, big ones here in the device, closed shop and either moved to San Diego or Silicon Valley. So there was this huge gap because the M&A activity in the device sector was as strong as always. Public offerings for a while in the sort of 2010 to 2000 and let's say 17, 18 had pretty much died off because all exits were all M&A, merger and acquisitions. So considering that the M&A activity was still very active, but the early stage capital had disappeared, I felt there was a good opportunity here in the device space coming in very early. And we found there was no competition. There was so much money in technology that even if you found a good project, you were outbid or the valuations were so high, it made no sense for guys like us who were willing to put in a small amount of money, but actively work with the company. This was not cold investments. This was absolutely get involved, roll your sleeves up, work to make sure that the company is successful. And so we decided to be very disciplined and focus only in the healthcare space, specifically devices. And now, over the last year, we branched into healthcare technologies, where there's the intersection of healthcare and software, because we feel there's a huge opportunity in the healthcare space. It's still a dinosaur in technology and massive opportunities, but you have to pick and choose and just make sure that you've chosen the right partners and you can execute well. So that's how we came into healthcare, focused on the geography where we were operating, what the strengths were, where the weaknesses were, what was needed, and so it's been pretty good. And then what we did was we opened an incubator at UCI, and which is this dark office you see. So we established a partnership, informal, with the UCI, where we see a lot of the deal flow that comes out of the university. And in fact, our first deal, which was also our first exit, came out of the UCI. And it's good, it's gratifying. You meet some of these students and help them work and commercialize their technology and have a successful exit. Is very gratifying. But the most gratifying thing of all is it's what you call the double benefit. You make money, but you're also improving people's lives. Yeah. So in the healthcare space, there's a direct correlation that if whatever you do, you make successfully, you commercialize successfully, you are improving patient outcomes, and therefore you're really improving patients' lives. And a lot of these technologies, you'll be amazed how much there is in the university vaults, which never sees the light of day. There's so much great technology, but it's just unfortunate that the professors do research so they can get grants, not to commercialize. And so a lot of these great technologies never see the light of day. They're just buried. So that's, in short, the story.
When you were saying this, it reminded me of something: doing well while doing good.
Yes.
That's essentially what.
Absolutely. Because, if you succeed in healthcare, I'm sure in lots of, but here there's a direct correlation. Right. If you do what you're doing and you succeed, you can see directly the improvement in patient outcomes. And so it's very gratifying. It really is.
Shiv, you mentioned healthcare, which, as you rightly termed it, is a dinosaur. What is the biggest challenge you're facing right now as a company, as a team, as even one of your investments?
Well, I guess it's counterintuitive. Two things. One, I'm sort of the old school where meeting people face to face before making decisions, and with the COVID-19, that's become tough to do. I'm not a fan, unfortunately. I know we're on a Zoom call, but I'm not a fan of Zoom calls, and I don't find it gives me enough of a handle on the personality of a person through a video conference. So to me, that's been one challenge. The second challenge is it's a massive field. Healthcare is huge. We see a lot of deals. So the question is, how do you separate the wheat from the chaff? I mean, is it the team? But having said that, since we come in very early, there's no expectation that you have an established team ready to take it to the next step. Is it the technology? And but if you really look at the great CEOs, especially up in the Silicon Valley and here, even if they've inherited some technology, 2 or 3 years later, let's say the technology is obsolete or they have a lot of competition, they'll do a 90-degree turn on a dime and take the company somewhere else. So the question is, how do you pick and choose the companies you want to get involved with? And to that's a challenge. On the other hand, over time, your nose becomes stronger.
Yes.
You can figure things out better, and you learn very quickly, which we didn't do for a long time, to say no. You didn't want to hurt someone, so you never really said no. But I just felt you're doing the person a disservice. It's better to say no quickly and let them move on rather than keep them. So I would say the biggest challenge would be, one, lack of face-to-face interaction. And number two, how do you choose the deal to put some money in? And we can go through how one has done that. But I think those are two big challenges, yeah. Having said that, COVID has also been a great opportunity.
Yes.
The last two companies we formed, in fact, the last two we formed have been as principals, in the sense that no one brought those to us. We created both those companies from scratch. And one of our philosophies is, in all the companies we get involved with, you have to have a strong lightning rod, in the sense the CEO has to be not only well-known, but an expert in that area in which the company is being formed. So that I think that was one of our learning curves. And both these companies we set up have benefited hugely by COVID, because COVID has made telehealth into something that's now becoming common, and people aren't hesitant to do video conferencing with doctors or otherwise. And both the platforms we were working on, I can go into more detail down the line. One of the issues was that they would require some form of, let's put it this way, usage of a platform as opposed to face-to-face visit with the doctor. And that's now become, COVID has really accelerated that. And a lot of the laws around barriers to these platforms have changed because of COVID. And so they've really benefited us.
Yeah, there's more of an acceptance both from the regulatory side, but also from the customer side.
Absolutely.
No longer a sell to, hey, try this thing out. It's people want to try it, people want to push it, promote it. So the offtake of this on both ends has been pretty amazing.
It has, and I mean, just Zoom. Look at the adoption of Zoom. A year ago, no one had heard of it, and now it's one of the hottest stocks in the market. But yeah, I think, and one of the new companies we set up is they're both sort of in stealth mode, but one of them is tackling mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something until we got involved, I didn't realize, but 1 of 5 Americans, that's 20% of the country, suffer from mental health issues. So at some level, it's the biggest, I guess, disease that no one talks about. And it afflicts so many people and you can't recognize it. You have no idea how, and mental health covers the whole gamut from anxiety, depression, not forget the extreme levels of bipolar, etc., substance abuse. So, I mean, it's shocking. I would say 70% of the homeless population has a mental health issue. 50% of your jail population has mental health issues. So if you can find solutions to these over and above massive improvement in patient outcomes, look at the amount of money you can save. So those are good problems for us to tackle, and we enjoy the challenge. They're big problems. They require scale, not necessarily money in scale, but scale in rolling out. And those are interesting problems to tackle. And if you succeed, look at the benefit, the same double benefit we talked about.
Yes.
Because let's say today, and I just stop me if I'm going on too long and all this stuff.
This is good.
Yeah, let's say today, if someone on the road is screaming at the top of their lungs and jumping around, obviously is mentally disturbed. You have either the EMR, the ambulance come and pick them up, or you have the cops.
Yeah.
Cops take them to a jail, and the EMR takes them to the hospital. So in the hospital, they're kept there for a day, but the emergency room is full of all sorts of gruesome, bullet wounds, broken bones. No one's looking at someone who's just yelling or screaming. They'll let go the next day. And with the cops, they're put into jail, but the moment they come out, they're back. There's no treatment. There's no treatment. So the treatment that's what we are actually trying to do through an online platform and in conjunction with brick and mortar facilities that are coming up. But it's an issue that requires a lot of public money. There's no private capital for this.
True.
Having said that, all your insurance plans, the payers, huge amounts of money they spend on covering things like substance abuse, etc., and they have no idea where they're spending it. It's a tragedy, and it's something we need to. For example, if my mouth starts drooping now and I start salivating, you'll immediately think, "Oh, this guy got a stroke," and call someone. But if I have a close loved one who commits suicide today, and I look back over the last few months, I'll have seen no signs that would have been recognizable to my untrained eye as to what should have prevented that from happening, or at least got some counseling or treatment. So there's so much that can be done, and so that's what we're trying to do, is not solve all the problems, but step by step.
Right. And like you said, there is, I think, a lot that needs to be done on building that awareness.
Correct.
Not just for people that may be going through this, which is needed, but also for people on the other side to be able to recognize that, hey, there may be a problem here. And I think the third thing is to educate and just kind of build that awareness that just like a physical ailment, a mental ailment is something that needs some attention and needs a little bit of time and work, and it's okay.
Well, you're 100% right. You have to destigmatize it. There's still a stigma.
Yes.
That, oh, this guy has a mental health issue, and it's not. It's think of it like any other disease. You have an issue, and it needs to be treated, and there is treatment available. And so I'll give you an example. For example, in Orange County, which is the first county in the country to do this, they've actually just opened a new facility in Orange County, and funded by the county, by the state of California, by 4 of the largest providers, including Kaiser, Providian, etc. They put in around $50 million and built this facility so that the example I gave you of someone screaming on the street, Now the police officer or the EMR person takes it directly to this facility. They save a lot of time. This facility has specialists that only treat mental health. And so now you don't have that continuous cycle of people churning in and out of the system with no help and no improvement in whatever their indications are. So that opened a month ago, and one of our roles in the company we are is building the platform, the technology platform for that sort of a facility also. And they've got another 20-acre facility in Irvine they're going to start building out. So Orange County is going to become a poster child of how to treat mental health issues. But this is vast. This is a drop in the ocean, but at least it's a good start.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging.
Yeah.
Any lessons learned or stories of success you want to share with us, whether it's, in this particular domain or just, from your wide gamut?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things on the law firm front, only because that was my prior career, that was earlier. I was the first non-Caucasian partner in my firm. Nice. And that was interesting. I never felt different until I actually thought about it and said, wow, I'm the first non-white partner they've had. And so this is a full credit to, I would say, the US. And I know people don't believe in meritocracies and all in many countries, but I think the US is totally, at least in certain areas, a meritocracy. That I could become a managing partner of a firm where I was the first non-Caucasian guy they hired. And I also had their biggest book of business they ever had in their history, which is another indication of two things. One, if you put your mind to it, even though you haven't grown up in this country, you don't have that network of school friends and college buddies you can tap into. But if you do it the right way, you work hard enough, you can succeed in anything you do. This country is amazing for that purpose. So I would say that was the most gratifying, because I then brought in a lot of other people who didn't fit the mold, let's say, and there were a number of other partners who followed me and still are there in the firm who don't, and I think it's benefited the firm. So that was very gratifying that I sort of changed the dynamics of a law firm in Orange County.
It is
so
indeed.
That was gratifying. And on the Octax side, I think our first investment was, as I mentioned, we pulled out of UCI.
Yes. And
3 postdoctoral students, and met them at an event, circled back with them, and talked to them about commercializing the technology they had just presented. And they presented at some business plan, and we saw the business plan. Started working with them and raised some money, put some of our own, got some other family offices and others to invest. And very interesting technology. It's something called, and I'll give you a quick 30-second description, peripheral artery disease, which is blockages in the arteries below the knee. Because everyone's familiar with blockages in the heart, or at least arteries going to the heart where you get stents. But stenting below the knee has blown past stenting in the heart a few years ago. So it's a much bigger problem, partly because of aging population, diabetes, high blood pressure. Now, the problem is when you put a stent below the knee in those 3 arteries in each leg, for whatever reason, doctors can't figure out where the real blockage is as they can in the heart. So they rely on X-ray, they rely on something called Doppler radar, which is a 50-50 toss of a coin. So most doctors still prefer just visual X-rays. But they have no idea if they planted, the treatment worked till the patient comes back a few weeks later. And the problem is, if they haven't got the blockage, 5% of those cases lead to amputation of the foot, which is a huge issue, both cost-wise and in patient mental health, as they say. And if the doctor goes in again to do the same procedure, he doesn't get paid by Medicare, because most of these patients are older, and nor does the hospital. So it's a big hit on the wallet, and it's a big hit to the patient. So these guys had developed a really straightforward technology. They were laser guys. They put a clasp, what they call like a pulse oximeter on the big toe. Laser shoots through the big toe and measures the flow of blood. So now in real time, they put this on while the surgery is on, and the doctor can look at an iPad-like screen in front of him and see if blood flow has normalized.
Nice.
Huge improvement in patient outcomes, huge improvement in the doctor's pocketbook, and simple, very complicated technology, but simple, non-invasive. And so we worked with them for 3 years, taking it to the next step, doing some very basic clinical trials because it was non-invasive, meaning it wasn't going into the body. You didn't have to do such lengthy clinical trials and patient studies. And then we started talking to some of the big acquirers, which are companies like, and you may have heard of these, Medtronic and Boston Scientific and a few of the others. And when we had to start doing clinical trials, we needed another $2 million. And I said, look, if you're going to raise another 2 million, we'll all get diluted. We'll bring in other shareholders. So I sat down with Medtronic and said, look, we'll give you the right of first refusal to buy this company. You give us a loan of $2 million, right? That will allow you to see a whole progress of our clinicals with the condition that if you buy us, the loan is forgiven. If you don't buy us by XYZ date, then we have 2 years after that to repay your loan. Because we are pretty certain if this worked, someone else will buy us. If Medtronic didn't. And they agreed. They gave us a $2 million loan. We agreed to a right of first refusal at a market price that we sort of agreed to upfront. We could have got a higher price if we sold it, but this took the risk out. You never knew what was going to happen. And a year later, which was the trigger, we had some very successful clinicals. Medtronic was extremely happy. And they pulled the trigger. And literally a day before the country shut down, which was, I think, March 14th or 15th, we closed the transaction.
Wow.
And so it was very gratifying because we took an idea, a concept from a business plan competition, and made it a serious company, raised capital, sold it all in 3 years, which is very fast for something in the device industry. And the 3 postdocs who were the founders made a lot of money. And this technology is going to hit the market and it's going to hugely improve patient outcomes, worldwide, not just in the US. So the advantage of a Medtronic buying it is they have feet in all the doctor's offices. We didn't have to create that. For us, that was a no-no. No marketing, no sales. Let someone else do that. They already have the whole force that they can just put this device into. And, so once it gets into a doctor's offices and it actually starts working, that's really gratifying. So yeah, it was satisfying on multiple fronts. We all made some money, and this device is going to find a home in most surgeons' offices, cardiac surgeons.
Around the world.
Around the world, yeah, because they will, and Medtronic has a footprint around the world, so it's perfect. And we also negotiated a percentage of future sales, so that's also good.
Wow, so that is really cool.
Yeah, so it was a good deal all around. Everyone's happy.
It should be. So Shiv, let's switch gears now and talk about you. Right? Okay. Let's get to know you a little better. And the way we want to do this is through a series of one-line life lessons that have come to define you, your thinking, the decisions you have made at several points in your life. And, I'll hand it over back to you.
So I would say that, I think the best way to put it that in my life, it's been every problem has been a gift. Without problems, we don't grow. So think of it differently. Life is full of ups and downs, but you go to school on your downs, not on your ups. When you have success, you celebrate, but you're not learning anything. You only learn when you're going through your downs, and people who waste that and feel sorry for themselves are losing a huge opportunity to build character, to build grit, to build staying power. So always use times when you're down and out to reflect and to grow. Never feel sorry for yourself. That's the worst. Conversely, if you have a friend or anyone else, an acquaintance who is going through trying times, in my legal practice, I got my best clients when I helped people when they were down and out. Because and everyone goes in a cycle. You've seen that, I'm sure, with a lot of your friends and acquaintances and family. When they have their upcycle, they never forget because you were one of the few people who actually helped them and went out of your way to help them when they were down and out. So, in my legal practice, I would say that was my most successful rainmaking effort, was helping people when no one else was talking to them. Because when you're successful, especially in this country, everyone's your friend.
Yes.
And yeah, I would say that's the biggest lesson. Uh, don't waste times when you are in a trough.
Right.
Yeah. So and then the other thing I guess is that and I'm sure once you reach a certain age, most people feel this. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. That's the best way to put it.
Nice.
Because if you love what you do, or if you really enjoy what you do, you will always be successful in that. So I really feel that if you're doing something, your heart isn't in it, or you for whatever reason feel it's a chore, getting up in the morning to do what you're going to do for the rest of the day, do something different. Whether you make enough money in it or not is not the issue. You will never succeed in something where, I mean, there are always exceptions, but by and large, you will be a miserable person. You'll make everyone around you miserable if you're doing something you're not enjoying. So do something you enjoy. I guess another way to put it, and this is not me. I've always remembered this quote. I think it was Teddy Roosevelt or something who said that the best prize that life offers is a chance to work hard at work worth doing, and something you enjoy doing. So I really think you got to be very judicious. And in this country, especially when you have all the opportunities, in a country like India, you're pigeonholed and you're stuck because there aren't that many opportunities. But here, there's so many opportunities. Do something you enjoy, and over time you'll be very successful in it, and you'll never regret that. So what else? Okay, glass ceilings. I've always heard this excuse, not so much now, but I used to, that you'll hit a glass ceiling. But in my life, I've always felt that glass ceilings are there to be broken.
Yes.
I have never been, if there was a glass ceiling, I never noticed it. I powered right through it. And, so another way of putting it is, if you're going to be in a rat race, you better be the king rat if you enter the rat race. Otherwise, don't get into the race.
Yes.
Because you'll never be satisfied if you're not the head honcho in any race you enter into. And that requires a lot of work and effort. And
true.
And but everyone's capable of doing that. Everyone is. When I joined my law firm, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't know anyone in Orange County because I moved from LA. And LA, as you know, the Orange County is too different, at least in those days. No one, if you lived in LA, you never came here. There was nothing in Orange County in those days, still developing. But if I, with a guy who didn't know anyone here, could build such a successful practice in a law firm, anyone could do it. And because I didn't have any of the tools that others had. So I just feel, don't look at excuses, just work hard, figure out what are the tools you need to succeed, and go and get them. Right. And work at those. And those could be personality issues, those could be public speaking issues, whatever they are, whatever you're scared of, conquer those fears and go for it. Yeah.
Take them head on.
Take them head on. Never give up. Never give up, because you never know when success will come. Success is whatever you define it as. Success is not money, but whatever you define success as is successful. And it's like these business opportunities. They people say, "Oh, I missed this one." They come constantly. There's no one business opportunity. You're going to get one after the other if that's what you want to do.
Yes.
So I've never really, and then as more as a philosophy, I'd say, the way I've always lived my life, that you face whatever life throws at you, with positive acceptance, with grace, sense of humor, because you can't change the past. Dwelling on the past is absolutely a fruitless effort. There's nothing you can do. Past is over. Whatever you may think, you cannot control your future, right? The future hasn't happened yet, and who knows what will happen. So all you can do is live in the present. So accept your present positively with a sense of humor and with grace, and life will always be good. Just do your best at whatever you're doing. And life takes care of itself. You know, that's what I believe anyway.
Those are words of wisdom coming from a lot of experience. And 30 years is a long time, and like you said, you
Yes,
reinvented yourself on several occasions,
correct.
and there is a lot more to come.
There is a lot more to come. Let's hope there'll be many more chapters and more reinventions. Although my wife may not agree with that sentiment, but but yeah, I think there will be. I'm looking forward to life.
But that's another challenge we have to take on, right?
Absolutely, constant. That's the one you have to work on the most, actually.
Yes.
Which is good. It's also very gratifying. You get the best results and happiness on working on that the most.
Yes.
Yes.
The rewards are instant.
Rewards are instant and long lasting. Absolutely.
Shiv, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to be with us and for sharing your journey with us. And we would love to continue this discussion and bring you back on and share more of your successes with our audience.
Thank you, Nitin. It's like I said, as we started, it's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you so much.